Okay, so literally the dragons are picking up the people of Azeroth and carrying them off to new continent. They have 5 types of dragonflight, Dratnos. Don't you get it? They're going to move all of the people of Azeroth.
Dude, the recording started. You can't leak this.
Oh, okay. All right. So what has been leaked is that there is a new World of Warcraft expansion announcement, maybe on April 19th.
Well, it's called Expansion Reveal by Blizzard. So
yes,
yeah, and it is on April 19th. So that one's not a leak. The Dragonflight name was from like a source code on their website that was, I guess, put there that shouldn't have been or something, or maybe it's all a hoax, a misdirection, something like that. But that's why people think it's called Dragonflight, and I think it is pretty likely it'll be called Dragonflight, but we'll have to see.
It's how Shadowlands got, like, the name for Shadowlands got announced beforehand as well. It is off of a very similar way that this Dragonflight thing got announced. Of course, it may just be Blizzard.
Yeah, joking. Dude, imagine if they put this there to trick people, and it's actually about something completely different.
That would be really funny. Cool. That would be really funny if Blizzard was going to do that. But anyways, we're going to have a World of Warcraft expansion announcement, at least in some form or fashion, on the 19th. I know that I'm super interested to see what they have to say about the future of the World of Warcraft franchise with this new expansion. And today we're going to talk about some of the things that we hope to see and we kind of expect to see in the expansion announcement, right?
Yeah, some of this is stuff that might not make it into an announcement, depending on how long the announcement is. But it's like a expansion wish list type thing. Yeah.
How long do you think the expansion announcement is going to be? Do you think it's going to be similar to the Zereth Mortis announcement that was like 10 minutes long, or do you think it's going to be like an hour-long press interview kind of thing?
Yeah, it depends, because usually we see these expansions announced at BlizzCon, right? And there's like a huge dump of panels about different parts of the expansion and feature announcements and discussion. But we're in kind of uncharted waters here with an expansion that's going to be done just announced with their reveal. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if maybe they just do like a cinematic and then like a feature video and then they're out of there and it's just like,
yeah,
that's what we get. I don't know.
Because
maybe they do a full hour of developer, talking about it. I don't know.
Yeah, because even for Shadowlands, we had it at BlizzCon 2019. There was even like a very early play test that you could go and participate in.
You could do Bastion leveling for a bit. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about some of the things that we want to / hope to see out of the dev interview. Or I guess it's not a dev interview; it's an expansion announcement. Let me get
just like, I don't know. For me, it's like out of the expansion, whether or not they announce it up front, but just like, yeah. Obviously, the more we know, the earlier, the happier I'd be. But I get it if they're going to keep some stuff under wraps.
The first thing that I had was alt accessibility, and I think that this is something that's covered pretty heavily, at least in the communities that we run in, is the ability to like play alts. I think that that's been more hotly contested this expansion than ever before, with how difficult it is for a player to get an alt from semi-fresh to like all the way completely up and running. Because for those who haven't like leveled a character recently, basically you have to level the character from whatever to current expansion. You have to grind renown. You have to go into Torghast and do at least some form of currency farming, or you could pass stuff off from a main character to get some of the currencies that you're looking for. And then you have to do some of the Zereth Mortis campaign, which isn't that bad. But then you also have to grind up your conduits, and then you also have to do gearing in some form or fashion.
I want to push back on 9.2 alt being a problem. Like, there are people in my guild that have created characters a week or 2 weeks ago that are already doing 20 keys, and it's like most of that stuff, you get your renown all the way up instantly, basically, to where it needs to be. You don't have to do Torghast. You can send it from your main. The gearing process and the conduit process, like just by doing every dungeon on 15, you get all your conduits at 265, and that's more than good enough to do everything you need. Like, I think that if the expansion launches with alts in the state that they're in 9.2, I think that'd be pretty good. The main thing that we want to avoid is like the domination shard patch alt experience, where it was just like, that was pretty miserable to try and play an alt. And if you felt like you wanted that 10% damage that came from shards, but you didn't feel like you wanted to clear the raid for 6 resets, that was quite a tough pull. But especially with the Creation Catalyst now online, I think that the alts as are right now continuing forward would be good enough for me.
I do think that alt accessibility, if it does continue on forward as is right now, it would be fine. But I think that a lot of the issues that at least came in 9.0 and 9.1 happen to do with like a lot of the systems and how they were initially implemented. And my second thing was system bloat. I don't know if you feel super strongly about how many systems we currently have in the game.
So this is pretty common. People, I hear this like, let's do an expansion with no systems.
I don't know about no
Which
systems.
is obviously crazy because like
Yeah.
they've never done like the systems are important. Even just like tiers, the system, right? Gear,
Yeah.
anything interesting besides just like literally leveling up and having new higher item level gear. Like that would be so boring if there was nothing actually new to spice up the gameplay. But
Yeah.
I will say, like, to me, the thing that causes system bloat as a feeling is when the systems are not, it's not so much the number of them, it's like the signal to noise ratio has been pretty bad on systems this expansion, with systems like, for instance, conduits. I don't think are like, they're a system that comes with the upkeep and the hassle of a system, although again less so this patch than before, now that you can get the 265s pretty easily from the dungeons. But even still, it's like it's an annoying part of the game, but it doesn't come with like, oh, this is a cool system that makes me feel more powerful.
And the craziest part for me, at least, is I didn't feel that way necessarily about the legendaries themselves, like the crafting of the legendaries, the buying missives, and like even like acquiring the pattern most of the time wasn't even the problem with legendaries that I had. It was also like the signal to noise ratio, as you described it, having to go into Torghast, having to farm out all of the currencies that were required to craft the legendaries. That was like the biggest. That was a lot of noise. And then the signal, of course, the legendaries were very cool. I actually really like the legendary system and how it was set up, if you remove the Torghast part.
Yeah, the legendaries also had some weird interactions with stuff like tier and shards of domination, where it was just like, are these systems being designed independently, or are they being designed with each other in mind to make sure that they're not like yoinking each other's real estate and making each other even more annoying than they already were? Because legendaries definitely had that problem with both tier and shards, depending on what spec you're playing and where your legendary went. That being said, I don't think it's an issue of like number of systems. I think it's just an issue of like, I don't know, make the systems good.
Make the systems feel cohesive too, in
Yeah.
a good way. In a good way, and I think that would fix at least the quote system bloat, where it doesn't feel like you have to do 100 different unique things.
There could certainly be fewer systems than there were in Shadowlands, and it could be good. But there could be the same amount, and it could also be good if they just make them good.
Yeah. Okay. So what are I have some more written down, but what are some of the things that you're looking forward to potentially happening in this?
Raids, keep the raid design exactly as it was in Sepulcher for me, man. Sepulcher has been the most fun raid I've done since like losing that initial excitement about being raiding and stuff, and like this one has been the best progression feeling.
What part
since
of it?
then?
What
Just
part of it
I don't know,
has...
the boss fights. Like Halandris, Bragalon, Jailer, even there's people hating on the Jailer fight, but I've been loving just all the mythic encounters basically, except for Prototype Pantheon, but everybody gets a miss here or there.
Everybody gets one. Yeah. It's one of those things that this raid tier specifically, they tried so many different things. They brought back tier. I think that's obviously like a very clear one. In addition to that, they did this non-raid testing of the final 3 bosses, so we didn't really know what to expect going into those. Then they also ended up tuning the raid very, very tight on mini encounters. Not even just like the final 2 or 3 is historically what they tuned tight, but they tuned even... Halandris was the 7th out of 11 bosses. It was tuned incredibly high. Anduin, even on heroic, that boss caught 7 nerfs or something. Like nerfs in like 4 consecutive days during heroic week. Just the whole entire raid has been tuned in such a way that has been interesting. And they've tried a lot of different stuff with the raid. And I think that keeping the raid in a similar vein of difficulty to reward structure has been super nice. I love these boss fights. These boss fights.
On a slightly less good note, I do think the dungeon side of things we could do with a little bit of a revitalizing of the dungeon design. I think this expansion has moved towards linear dungeons where you just walk in a... It's not so much like, I like the idea of there being a nice straight line that you can walk down, but I also like the idea of there being like packs off to the side that you can pull if you want, but that aren't just directly in the path. And several of the dungeons this expansion feel like it's basically all just like a fully on rails straight line, which
Okay,
I prefer
just
to depart from that a little bit.
just to be a jerk a little bit, and it may derail this, but what if I said the line linear dungeons are better for casual players? What would be the argument against that?
Well, so I think that a dungeon where it is possible to go in like a pretty clear straight line path and get 100% count and not have any impossible pulls along that path is a good thing. But I
Yes.
think there should also be like, okay, you can pull some stuff from the side and skip some stuff on the main path if you want, instead of it just being like, oh, there's literally only the straight line path that you must pull everything that is on that path.
I agree with this, and that I think that's why like more open concept dungeons just as a whole, and not having one completely clear cut path is important. Not in the Spires of Ascension and Taldazar way, more in the sense of like kind of Halls of Atonement. You never pull the exact same two routes. You don't always pull the exact same two routes, and it is a little bit more open.
I think a Taldazar was what would have been pretty good at this if it weren't for that double honor guard pull that just like if that pull hadn't been quite as harsh as it was, it would have been fine to just straight line through the dungeon in any direction and pull whatever you want. But because of that pull existing, it became like a pretty nasty +15 dungeon to try and do without a plan to like skip that pack.
Yeah, my point was more like a Taldazar and I guess less a Taldazar, more like Spires of Ascension and Theater of Pain still feel like they're very linear.
Right, those are very much like, you know, there's like one or two decision points you get in the whole dungeon, which feels bad.
Yeah. All right. So some more of the stuff that I would really like to see. I think a reward structure change is probably getting to the point where it's warranted. Whenever a lot of different parties are complaining about the rewards in the game, we've seen people talking about tier, people talking about the creation catalyst not being soon enough. Some people are pushing back on that, saying it was just fine on time. People talking about not having like tier tradability super early is a problem. People talking about the Great Vault not giving them fast enough gear. Gearing catch up isn't quick enough. There's a lot of people, and it made me realize that very few people are actually happy with the system that we currently have loot reward wise. And I don't know what the answer should be for what they should be doing in the future. I think that there are a lot of different MMOs and different RPGs that have reward structures that are different from World of Warcraft, and I think that maybe Blizzard should be looking to take a little bit from each of those. But what we currently have in the game, where some people have to spend 30 runs inside of the other side for an IQD, where some people have to spend a group with a group of 5 players. They only do 2.5 runs or 3 runs or whatever, and they get an IQD for the person that needs it. That feels like that's like disjointed. There's a large discrepancy between casual players and the populace and the players that are playing in a group. And I think that some change of the reward structure to evenly balance this out would be warranted, and it would allow Blizzard to make it better for all parties involved, is how I feel about it. Any thoughts and opinions?
Okay, here's my I think that the thing about the loot system right now is that it feels like there's a lot of stuff like kind of duct taped onto it to fix little things that I do think just like overhauling it, you could make it better for everybody. So yeah, I'm down. Triple the amount of loot that drops. Turn off trading entirely.
Yeah, that's the like the simple. I feel like that's just like lowest level. If they're gonna do that, I'm okay with it, I guess.
Triple the amount of loot that drops. Turn off trading entirely, and give me like once every month and a half. Let me just like buy an item from the raid if I've cleared the raid every
any
week.
Piece. Yeah.
Just like what, so that I can't go 4 months without seeing a Jathis or whatever, Edge of Night, something like that.
Yeah, I think that would be nice. Next thing, I'm looking for a beta date. I think that like I would like a play test, honestly, but I think the fact that we still have 9.2.5 is yet to be released. It's still on the PTR. It doesn't even look like it's in release candidate form. I don't expect for us to have like a beta ready to be up and running. Maybe you have a different idea, but I think a beta, like a date for the beta relatively soon, would be kind of cool.
Yeah, it would certainly. I mean, the sooner we have a beta date, the more likely it is that the expansion is coming out within our lifetimes, right? So that's that would be heartwarming news.
What other things do you have?
Player housing. Give me a house. I want a house.
You really want housing?
Yeah.
I feel like this is like an unpopular opinion among people at our level. Why do you want player housing? Like I've never played an MMO with like player
Look, man, they keep making these systems that these like island expeditions, Torghast, Warfronts. They keep putting sinking all this like all this time and effort into making these systems that I feel like most of the people that it's aimed at would just rather have a house. I don't know. I think that I think it would be cool
Huh.
to have a house that you could kind of build up, something that would last between expansions. They could drop furniture and stuff from like everywhere. It could be the kind of thing like people that collect achievement points, right? That it could basically everything that drops achievement points could basically drop furniture stuff.
Raid bosses could
Um,
drop patterns. Any bot,
oh
like,
yeah, raid
yeah,
bosses, professions, old raid bosses, old reputations, all that kind of stuff
that
they
could be
could very.
cool.
I mean, it could be quite like they have so much art assets in the game. I don't know, man. I just feel like the target audience for a lot of like there hasn't really been a system that's just like I don't know that got that kind of like
For casuals.
yeah like really for cat like I think the Torghast Island Expedition Warfront targeting has been weird because I don't really see anybody that is like enjoying it really.
Dude, I haven't even thought about that because, like, think about all the rewards that are from island expeditions, and think about the people who end up actually doing island expeditions. And so the targeting definitely felt off. Huh. I never thought about that. I think that I do think that like some more um like casual friendly content would be really cool. And I think that player housing, at least in my mind, would be a step in the right direction. There are definitely things that they could do.
Do I want to build a house? I want to have a cool house. I want to put some cool stuff in it. And I want to hang out there from time to time.
Dratnos, can I visit your house?
No.
Why
They
not?
need to make it so you can ban people from visiting your house as well. That's an important feature for me.
A couple other things I have. I'm looking for an expansion roadmap in like the future 0.5 patches. I think that those two kind of coincide with one another. I, I don't think it's any surprise that I was not super thrilled with the length of patches. I don't think many people were happy with the length of patches that Shadowlands had. And I think that if they are going to continue having these really long ones, I would like to at least know about them in advance. And I think the future 0.5 patches kind of coincides with that because it seems like they've been putting a lot more content into the 9.1.5 and then 9.2.5. And if that's the way that Blizzard's going to try to alleviate some of that stuff, then that's cool. But I think that like an expansion roadmap / the future 0.5 patches would be a good talking point, at least on the
I,
expansion reveal.
I suspect that a lot of that is going to also do with like how well received season 4 and 9.2.5 are, because those
Okay.
represent like a new style of 0.5 patch that I hope is well received, and I hope it works well because it seems like exactly what I would want 0.5 patches to be.
Yeah,
I'm
it's just weird because like, is it going to feel like it's fulfilling enough of that itch to keep people engaged if the patches are going
right.
to be still lasting 8 months?
Now my last thing is Dragonflights. Okay, it's like Covenants. Okay, it's like Covenants, but just from the start, they don't do any of that dumb stuff where you can't play the game. And instead, it's just cool abilities that you can swap between and are cool, but not the kind that make you not want to play the game because you have the wrong Dragonflight and you can't do the other kind of content. They just right from the start, they're just like, yeah, if you've got a tome active, you can swap your Dragonflight, and maybe you have to do some extra quests to unlock each of them or something like that. Maybe you play through all the storylines or stuff and do something like that, but like just without all of the pain of the Covenant system, but still with the really cool, awesome looking and awesome to play abilities, which the Covenant abilities really got done dirty by how much they were shackled with the horrible stubbornness of the 9.0
Dude,
implementation.
it's something I just thought of. What the hell is Blizzard going to do about covenants? Are they just going to?
They'll probably talent a couple of the abilities and dumpster a bunch of the others. I don't know.
I hate to hear that.
I mean, that's what they usually do with these kind of things, right?
Yeah, it is what they usually do with these kind of things. I just hate to hear it because like there are so many really cool covenant abilities.
Well, they could just roll some of them into the Dragonflights. If Convoke's really cool, well, it's not a Night Fae ability anymore. Now it's a green Dragonflight ability. There you go.
Convoke the dragon.
Convoke the dragon. It's literally just the same, except your character does like a dragon animation. There's like a little green dragon head that comes out.
And then you
Yeah.
start spewing abilities.
Yeah. That's
All
right.
What are some of the things that you guys are looking forward to from the expansion announcement? Is there anything that we missed? Is there anything that is Blizzard going to let us down one final time? Are they going to be a pallbearer at my funeral? We'll see. We'll be back with next week's episode where we're probably going to cover these things that we did see. I think. TBD. All right. Anyways, we'll see you guys later. Peace.